A full-blown trade war has exploded between the US and China, and the fallout is catastrophic. Ports are jammed, Amazon shipments canceled, and prices for everyday goods have already climbed through the roof, sending Americans into a state of panic. This isn't just a simple trade dispute anymore. The tariffs, the canceled shipments, the supply chain paralysis, everything is spiraling out of control, and at the Oval Office, President Trump is stunned, scrambling for solutions and retaliation measures from his advisors. But is this trade war really just a battle over imports and exports? Or is something much bigger unfolding? A high-stakes game of global chess, where every move could tip the balance of power in ways we can't yet fully comprehend. Let's dive in and find out. The trade war hits a new gear. The US-China trade war has been simmering for years, with multiple flashpoints sparking brief escalations. It all started in 2018, when the US imposed sweeping tariffs on Chinese imports aimed at curbing Beijing's growing economic influence. The main targets: steel, aluminum, and most notably technology, an industry where both nations are vying for dominance. Throughout the ensuing years, both countries imposed tariffs, counter-tariffs, and sanctions in a tit-for-tat struggle, affecting everything from manufacturing to agriculture. But now, in 2025, the situation has taken a sharp turn into uncharted territory. What began as a series of punitive tariffs and trade barriers has morphed into a broader, more aggressive conflict. China's most recent move has raised the stakes. An unexpected freeze on American exports, particularly key industrial goods. Beijing's silence following its decision speaks volumes. No press conferences, no official announcements, just a quiet, calculated disruption. The trigger for this intensified conflict: the Trump administration's surprise decision on April 1st to slap a 145% tariff on over $300 billion worth of Chinese goods. This was no ordinary move. Analysts and business leaders alike were taken aback, but it wasn't just about the size of the tariff, it was the target. By focusing on Chinese goods that are critical to US manufacturing and consumer goods, Trump essentially forced Beijing's hand. China responded swiftly, targeting American industrial icons. Boeing deliveries were halted without notice, straining already fragile US-China relations. At the same time, Chinese authorities began issuing warnings to their state-owned companies to reduce trade exposure with the US, further stoking fears of a more sustained disruption in the coming months. This wasn't just a trade dispute anymore, it was an all-out economic standoff. Markets have been rocked. US stock indexes have dropped, with heavy losses in industries most exposed to Chinese tariffs, such as tech and automotive. Companies like Apple and Ford have seen their stock prices plunge, while others, like General Motors, have scrambled to adjust their supply chains. It's clear that the tension between the two superpowers has crossed a threshold. Even the price of everyday goods is beginning to climb, driven by escalating shipping costs and raw material shortages. Analysts are now predicting that this could be the start of an economic downturn, one that may linger far longer than expected. The numbers paint a stark picture. As of early April 2025, trade volume between the US and China has dropped by nearly 40% in just 2 weeks. At US ports, inbound shipments from China have been delayed by as much as 50%, with some cargo waiting up to 2 weeks to clear customs. The impact on businesses is already palpable. Companies are canceling orders, revising their supply forecasts, and trying to mitigate the fallout with higher prices. The escalation is clear and the implications are still unfolding, but the full extent of the damage won't be seen in boardrooms. It's unfolding in real time on the docks. But it's not just about the markets. What's happening on the ground at US ports tells the real story. The chaos at these key entry points is what's really fueling the fire, and it's a far more tangible crisis. Ports and supply chains in crisis. The images are striking. Towering ships lined up like a fleet waiting for orders, their hulls heavy with containers. Dock cranes, usually in constant motion, stand still, idle, as the backlog grows. The once efficient hum of US ports has slowed to a crawl. It's a visual testament to the true scale of the trade war's effects. A bottleneck so severe that it has gripped entire shipping lanes, forcing goods to pile up for days, sometimes weeks. At ports like Los Angeles and Long Beach, the delays are are now routine. Containers are left sitting, stacked high on the dock, waiting for clearance. The familiar sight of cargo unloading has become a rarity as the logjam only grows. This congestion isn't just a temporary inconvenience. It's part of a ripple effect that's quickly spreading through the American economy. With ships delayed, inventory is running low, and manufacturers are feeling the strain. The delays mean that raw materials for US factories are arriving late or not at all. This creates production bottlenecks, and without crucial components, American manufacturers are forced to reduce output or stop altogether. Automakers already struggling with supply chain issues from previous trade tensions are now cutting back on their vehicle production. This isn't just a problem for the big players like Ford or GM. It's hitting smaller manufacturers too, who rely on timely shipments to keep their businesses running. In retail, the consequences are equally severe. Big box stores like Walmart and Target are facing delayed shipments of popular products, ranging from electronics to clothing. Many customers are finding bare shelves, especially for seasonal items like back-to-school supplies. The same issues are hitting e-commerce giants like Amazon, who have had to cancel or delay millions of orders in the past month alone. For small businesses, especially those relying on imports from China, the delays are a death sentence. The long wait times are causing inventory shortages, and in many cases, businesses are forced to hike prices or cancel orders altogether, leaving their customers frustrated and looking elsewhere. Recent data paints an even bleaker picture. As of April 2025, US ports are facing a backlog of over 300,000 containers, a number that continues to rise daily. The backlog at just the Port of Los Angeles alone has seen wait times stretch to an average of 10 days. The cost of these delays is astronomical, with businesses losing billions in potential revenue. Retailers are already reporting that their supply chains are broken, costing them an estimated $12 billion in lost sales. For smaller businesses, the financial toll is devastating, as they lack the resources to adjust and absorb the disruptions. Dock workers and freight forwarders are sounding the alarm. Mike Rodriguez, a dock worker at the Port of Long Beach, explains, "It's chaos out here. Containers are sitting for weeks, and no one can do anything about it. This is more than just a trade war. It's an entire system coming apart at the seams." Freight forwarder Claire Thompson adds, "We're seeing delays from every direction. Trucks can't get in, containers can't get out, everything is slowed down, and it's only getting worse." The strain is evident not just in the ports themselves, but in the ripple effect that's shaking the entire economy. Manufacturers are scrambling, retailers are losing revenue, and small businesses are being squeezed out of the market entirely. And the impact on businesses and supply chains is only half the story. As goods grow scarcer, the real shock is what happens to prices. From electronics to groceries, the costs are climbing fast. Amazon's crisis: orders canceled, prices spike. The e-commerce giant Amazon, usually synonymous with convenience and quick delivery, is facing a crisis of its own. With the trade war heating up, Amazon has been forced to cancel orders mid-transit, leaving customers in the lurch. Popular products, especially electronics and household goods, that once promised to arrive at your doorstep within days are now delayed for weeks, if not longer. The promise of a swift, no-hassle delivery system is breaking down as shipping lanes become congested, warehouses fill up, and suppliers fail to meet deadlines. What once was a smooth operation is now a jigsaw puzzle, with missing pieces from all sides. It's not just about delays though. The cost of goods is rising rapidly too. As tariffs on Chinese imports soar, Amazon's prices have followed suit. A tablet that cost $100 a few months ago is now priced at $120 due to new tariffs, and the same is happening across categories. Clothing, electronics, kitchen appliances, the list goes on. The price hikes may seem gradual, but the compounded effect is hitting consumers hard. For the average shopper, what used to be affordable is now becoming out of reach. And the worst part, these price hikes show no signs of slowing down anytime soon. As tariffs continue to escalate, prices will only rise, creating a ripple effect that stretches across the entire retail sector. Other major retailers like Walmart and Target are scrambling to adjust to the same pressures. They too are facing the brunt of supply chain disruptions. Both chains have started implementing price hikes of their own to counter the rising costs from delayed shipments and tariffs. Walmart, which heavily relies on imports from China, has reported sharp increases in prices across its food and consumer goods aisles. Target, on the other hand, is seeing delays on popular toys and home goods, pushing back orders for holiday season products to the dismay of early shoppers. The result? Frustrated customers, who are not only forced to wait longer for the items they need, but are also paying more for those items. This economic squeeze has shifted consumer sentiment. American shoppers are increasingly frustrated with the delayed orders, the rising prices, and the overall unpredictability of the retail landscape. Many have taken to social media to voice their dissatisfaction, with some questioning the fairness of it all. I ordered a blender last month, now it's back ordered for 6 weeks, and I'm paying $20 more than I would've, says one Twitter user. According to recent surveys, consumer confidence has dropped to its lowest level in over a year, with many shoppers feeling uncertain about future purchasing power. For some, the trade war is no longer just a distant political issue, it's something that's personally affecting their wallets. As this crisis unfolds, shoppers are left to wonder how long they'll be able to bear the rising costs. Is this just a temporary setback, or are we seeing a shift in how we shop, one that could have lasting consequences? The consumer pain may be widespread, but it's not only shoppers who are feeling the heat. US manufacturers, particularly in the car sector, are facing mounting challenges that are just as severe. The US manufacturing sector, auto industry in trouble. The U.S. auto industry, once a symbol of American manufacturing might, is now caught in the crossfire of the escalating trade war with China. Ford, GM, and other major automakers are scrambling to keep production lines moving as critical components from China, like microchips, steel, and electrical parts, become harder to obtain. These parts are not just optional, they're integral to building the vehicles consumers demand. Without them, factories are forced to slow production, or in some cases, halt it altogether. The result? Major delays and mounting losses. Ford recently announced that it would cut production on some of its most popular models, like the F-150, due to a shortage of semiconductor chips. GM has similarly scaled back production of its Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra trucks, citing the same issue. These disruptions are costing automakers millions of dollars a day in lost revenue, and the ripple effect is being felt far beyond the assembly lines. Dealerships are facing empty lots, and customers are being told that their dream car might not be available for months. Even worse, this backlog is leading to job cuts in the industry. In Michigan, where Ford and GM are headquartered, hundreds of temporary workers have been let go as plants scale back production. For the workers still on the job, long hours in an attempt to catch up are becoming the norm. Automakers have tried to shift some of their manufacturing operations to other countries in an effort to avoid the worst of the delays, but with China's retaliatory tariffs and its own manufacturing struggles, that solution is no longer as viable as it once was. The big question now, are these disruptions temporary, or are they indicative of a much larger, longer-term shift in the way the industry operates? Automakers are left wondering if they'll ever be able to return to pre-trade war levels of production. Some analysts believe this could be a turning point for the entire auto industry, with long-term shifts in where and how cars are built. Could we be witnessing the decline of America's car manufacturing dominance? Or is this simply the growing pains of an industry caught in a turbulent global landscape? Industry leaders are trying to remain optimistic, but the challenges are undeniable. We're working tirelessly to rebuild our supply chain and adjust to the realities of the new trade environment, says Mary Barra, CEO of GM. It's going to take time, but we're focused on getting back on track. The reality is, however, that this recovery may take longer than many are prepared for. As the trade war continues to ripple through the economy, Trump's political strategy is about to face its toughest test yet. Will his administration manage to hold steady under mounting pressure, or will this crisis chip away at his support? Stick around because the answers are coming, and they might change everything. Political blowback. Pressure mounts on Trump. The political storm brewing in Washington is no less intense than the disruption on the ground. As prices climb and shelves empty out, lawmakers are feeling the heat from their constituents. The once solid bipartisan stance on confronting China is beginning to show fractures. Trump's trade war, pitched as a patriotic move to restore economic fairness, is now facing sharp criticism, not only from Democrats, but also from within his own party. Several Republican senators from manufacturing-heavy states are voicing concern, warning that the economic pain back home could cost them re-election. Inside the White House, aides are reportedly walking a fine line, publicly backing the president's hardline strategy while privately raising alarms about polling numbers in key battleground states. The administration had hoped the tariffs would push China back to the negotiating table, but the opposite seems to be unfolding. With China retaliating and markets reacting poorly, the strategy is being questioned by business leaders and conservative commentators alike. Across the country, small business owners and factory workers are staging protests demanding relief. Industry groups have begun lobbying Congress for tariff exemptions and emergency measures. Even Trump's most loyal media allies are shifting their tone, asking how long Americans are expected to carry the cost of this prolonged standoff. But what's unfolding next isn't just about two economic giants locking horns. It's about the alliances forming behind the scenes, the countries taking sides, and the new global order emerging from the fallout, and that changes everything. Global shockwaves, allies, rivals, and a shifting world order. As Washington and Beijing trade blows, the world is watching and reacting. What was once a bilateral economic dispute has now spilled into the global marketplace, forcing other countries to choose sides or find new strategies for survival. From Europe to Southeast Asia, economies are adjusting supply chains, rewriting trade agreements, and bracing for the possibility that this isn't just a temporary standoff, but the beginning of a broader realignment. In Brussels, European Union officials are rethinking trade dependence on both China and the United States, wary of being caught in the crossfire. India, meanwhile, is quietly positioning itself as an alternative manufacturing hub, hoping to capitalize on companies fleeing the uncertainty. And countries like Vietnam, Mexico, and Indonesia are seeing an influx of interest from multinationals looking to hedge against supply chain fragility. China isn't just retaliating with tariffs, it's also deepening ties with countries that have long sat on the fence. Beijing has accelerated trade talks with Brazil, Russia, and parts of Africa, building alliances that sidestep US influence entirely. These parallel trade routes could reshape how global commerce works, weakening America's central position in the world economy. The dollar, long considered untouchable as the global reserve currency, is facing subtle but serious pressure. Central banks in a handful of countries are increasing their gold reserves or exploring digital currency trade settlements to reduce reliance on the US financial system. While the shift is still in its early stages, the momentum is enough to raise eyebrows on Wall Street and at the Treasury Department. Even longtime allies like Japan and South Korea are recalibrating. While they remain close to the US strategically, their corporate sectors are exploring diversified trade partnerships that reduce dependence on any one superpower. The concern isn't just about the US-China rivalry, it's about the volatility that now seems to define it. And so, the shockwaves continue, rippling out from two giants, but shaking the entire global table. Does Trump stand any chance in winning this war or admitting defeat and repairing the broken relationship between the US and China? What are your thoughts?